Because in recent history, if you look back at it, they have rewarded teams for playing a tough schedule. They didn't penalize them. And I could go on and on and on, but I think you get the point. You guys see it. They're doing things differently this year. They have changed their ways of thinking. But here's the big question, and it's the question we're going to get to in this video. Why? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Guess what, guys? There's a reason for all of this. And I've been letting this team off the hook, too. I need to give them a harder time. But the most notable thing Texas has done all year was get blown out by Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you having a great Wednesday. Hope all of you having a great week. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. Man, oh man, this is about to be a really interesting video. I would probably go as far as saying this is one of the most interesting videos I have made in quite some time, at least to me. And it's because of some things that involve the CFP committee. By the way, we're not doing no intro, none of that. We're getting straight into it. This topic is so important, it is the one and only thing we're going to be talking about. So last night, as we all have seen, and it's the talk of the town, I'm sure you've heard about it, the new college football playoff rankings, they were released like they are every single Tuesday night. And to be brutally honest with you, and if you've been watching my reaction videos to them, you know how I feel about them, but I'm going to say it again here. They've been awful all year long. We have now had not one, not two, but 3 CFP rankings come out, and they've all been terrible. There's multiple reasons for that. I'll get into that a little later in this video, but here's number one. They're not using any logic. And this is a little foreshadowing. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But first things first, as a college football fan, analyst, some of you call me a delusional idiot, whatever you want to call me, this is the first year I've actually been dumbfounded with the CFP rankings. This is the first year since they've been doing them, starting in 2014. I haven't agreed with them for the most part. Sure, in recent memory, you could nitpick at some things, but for the most part, like I said, they were pretty good. The committee was really good at putting the best teams in there, using logic, and explaining it. But this year, it appears the same. Well, not even appears the same. It is this way. They've changed their requirements. I think a better way of saying it is they've changed their ways of thinking. Because in recent history, if you look back at it, they have rewarded teams for playing a tough schedule. They didn't penalize them. But this year, for some odd reason, they're not doing that. But then, and this is where it gets just blasphemous, they have a double standard. And I could go on and on and on, but I think you get the point. You guys see it. They're doing things differently this year. It doesn't matter if you're an SEC fan, Big 12, ACC, Group of 5 fan, you go for Boise State, you're a Big 10 fan, you see it and you know it. They have changed their ways of thinking, but here's the big question, and it's the question we're going to get to in this video. Why? What happened? The committee just doesn't go from being really good for 9 or 10 years and then this year being awful. Something had to occur. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Guess what, guys? There's a reason for all of this. The committee got a new chairman this year, and you know who it is? The athletic director of Michigan. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting if you gotta ask me, but it doesn't just stop there. The committee also has not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 new members. Ah, yeah, so you see where I'm going with this. It's starting to add up. I wouldn't even view it as a big deal if they just got 1 to 2 more members, but 6 new members? I mean, that's half the room almost. There's only 13. And this is common for anything. When you got new faces in there, it's new ideas, new minds. People think differently. It's normal. And me, myself, like many of you out here, we're just trying to figure out what's the method to the madness because it doesn't make sense. And you know where I'm going with this. I'm not going to beat around the bush. These 6 new members have heavily, and I mean heavily, swayed the ways of thinking for this entire committee room. And last night in my reaction video that I make to the rankings like I do every single Tuesday night, I was extremely calm, cool, and collected, and I didn't even argue too much. I didn't scream, I didn't yell, and the main reason for that, and I think I stated this in the video, is because I expected the committee to put out terrible rankings yet again. So when you expect something, you're kind of prepared for it. But I'm sick and tired of this. How much longer am I just supposed to sit back and you guys supposed to just sit back and accept this? We shouldn't be okay with it. It's the same problem we have with BYU. The committee and everyone else out here is trying to pretend like Indiana can compete with the big boys when we know they can't. I think Indiana's a good team. I got them at number 7 in my rankings, but they're not better in Georgia. They're not better in Ole Miss, and they're not better in Alabama. And as soon as you say that statement, all these idiots and nerds run to the comments. Oh, here we go, SEC bias. It ain't SEC bias, you nerd. It's called living in reality and calling things for how you see them. And here's another take that SEC haters love to say. Actually, I'll just show you this tweet because somebody just sent this to me. Whoever sent it to me, shout out to you. Rare football take. If the SEC gets 4 of 7 at-large bids to the playoff and an 11-1 team from the other Power 2 league doesn't get in, referring to Indiana, we might as well have the SEC just play a 15-game season and pick its own quote-unquote national champion. In other terms here, this guy's trying to state what a lot of people say, well, I guess the SEC should just play for their own national championship according to their logic. And I don't think people understand how dumb they sound when they say stuff like that. Let me explain. You do understand and realize, right? The SEC has won all the national championships the last 20 years outside of a few. Clemson won a couple, Ohio State won one, Michigan won one, and there's probably some other team I'm missing. But for the past 20 years, for the most part, whoever won the SEC either A, played in a national championship, or B, won the national championship. So yeah, the SEC should have their own national championship because they're the best conference and it's not even close. And it goes back to this. Where do you think all these 4- and 5-star recruits come from, buddy? The Southeast. The Southeast has the best basketball players, football players, and baseball players. And I do consider Texas be a part of the Southeast too. And I had somebody say, well, Matt, technically Texas is in the Midwest. Too bad, buddy. I'm including you in. California's got a bunch of nice recruits as well, so don't think I forgot about them because I did not. I'm talking about for the vast majority, all these studs, 4- and 5-star recruits, are coming from the Southeast. So it's not a coincidence that the SEC is the best conference. Let me ask you a question, Ohio State and Michigan fans. Do you think you're getting all your 5-star wide receivers from Ohio and Michigan? Because I'm here to tell you, you're not. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm not going to pretend like Notre Dame, Indiana, and Penn State are all better than Ole Miss, Alabama, and Georgia. I'm not going to do it. And guess what? You don't believe it either. And the only argument people have is, because they know those teams aren't better than the SEC teams, is, oh, I guess losses don't mean anything anymore. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, buddy, but the goal of the committee isn't to put the 12 most deserving teams in, or the, in recent years, 4 most deserving teams in. It is to put the 12 best teams in, regardless of record. Record doesn't matter. They have one requirement and one requirement only. Put the best 12 teams in. Of course, you got to put the 5 automatic bids in, so after that, the 7 best teams. So this whole, well, Georgia has 2 losses, Ole Miss has 2 losses, that's not a part of the equation, pal. Nowhere does it state the 12 most deserving teams have to get in. It is the 12 best teams. And none of you think Indiana is better than Georgia. So I don't understand y'all guys' logic either. I'm going to keep it a Fortnite V-Buck with you. Who deserves to be in at this point in time? Indiana or Georgia? I'd say Indiana. The reason I say that is because when you look at Georgia's 2 losses, they really got blown out in both of them. Ole Miss curve stomped and Alabama was up 30 at half. And for Indiana, although they ain't played anybody and nobody has ridiculed them more than me for that, they have handled business and they've just beaten down on some teams. They beat Nebraska by 50. And I know Nebraska ain't good, but that was impressive to me. But, and I have a really big but, that's not what the mission of this playoff is. It's to get the 12 best teams, and Indiana's not better than Georgia. And I'll show you this comment. It goes to show that people are not informed on this. This guy states, it's about the best and most deserving teams. Buddy, it's not. It's just best, period, the end. And I'm letting so many teams off the hook because of this whole Indiana and Penn State situation. But why in the world is Notre Dame ranked ahead of Alabama and Miami and Ole Miss and Georgia? Notre Dame ain't done nothing all year long. And let me ask you this question. Is Notre Dame even better than South Carolina? And I've been letting this team off the hook too. I need to give them a harder time. But the most notable thing Texas has done all year was get blown out by Georgia. On their home field too, and it was actually worse than what the score indicated. How can you sit up here and tell me that Texas is better than Georgia and Ole Miss? They're not. And here's the last thing I'm going to say before I lose my mind. I'm sorry, guys, but I've been all over the place in this video. So Georgia just completely Donkey Kong smashes Texas, right? But you have Texas at 3 and Georgia at 10. To clarify, I have Oregon at 1 and Ohio State 2, so I agree with that. But Ohio State loses to Oregon, okay? Keep following me here because of the committee. This is where the double standard comes into play. Tennessee plays a good game against Georgia on the road, loses, and you drop them. At this point in time, they're the first team out, so they're out of the playoffs. Listen to what I said. Tennessee lost to a playoff team on the road, and they're out of the playoffs? What? It's a double standard. Ohio State lost to a playoff team. They didn't even move. Penn State lost to a playoff team. They didn't even move. And same thing for Texas. Texas got blown out. Oh, think about this. Tennessee played Georgia better than Texas did, and Tennessee fell out of the playoff. How does that make sense? We could go on for hours, guys. There is nothing about these rankings that makes sense. It's not even like they're trying to be analytical, because when you look at the strength of record or numbers, it still should be obvious. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that room. I would love to hear what they're talking about. I would just love to hear somebody explaining why they think Notre Dame, Indiana, and Penn State are better than Ole Miss and Georgia. Many more things I could say. I'll end it off here. Let me know your thoughts down below about that.